Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about the second house in astrology, what it means, what it represents in your life, right? Significations. We're going to be talking about the planets, so the planets that do well in the second house and planets that are more difficult. Also, be talking about the second lord, which is like the director. It is the ruler, the lord of the sign in the second house, and what it means when you have that second lord in different places in the chart. Finally, we'll have the signs. We're going to put each one of these 12 signs in the second house and talk about how it thematically colors that second house, because the house is the area of life. It is the concrete existing thing, the tangible aspect that you can feel and touch and see and experience. And the signs are the genre, the vibe, the energy, the how, the why of that house. It's a more subtle, thematic part of the chart. Okay, so significations, or this is supposed to say significations, but I didn't have enough space. But the meaning, what the second house represents in your life, it represents your resources, your money, your speech, your immediate family. It also represents your early life. So the first house represents your birth, maybe even like the first year of life, the very beginning, how you come into this world. And the second house is the second stage, where it is that development, that very early stage of life where you are learning to exist as a human being on this incredibly crazy planet we call Earth right now. All right. It also represents your friends too, in a way. So, it's really all about responsibility, the second house. So when I say immediate family, I mean the people in your life when you're growing up and even maybe right now that are responsible for you, meaning that take care of you and make sure that you have what you need. And also the people or animals in your life that you take care of and that you are responsible for, because the second house is all about responsibility. It's also about values, what you value in life. We all have different values. We all attribute value to different things. It is naturally the second sign, which is associated with Taurus. And so that's going to be the things we value, or the things that we feel are worthwhile in our life. But like I said, at the core, it is that resourcefulness, the ability to get what you need to fulfill your responsibilities. Now, the second house is commonly referred to as like the wealth house. It is wealth, but not excess wealth in the shape of, say, money you'd spend on a yacht or money you'd spend on a Ferrari or whatever it may be, but more so the wealth that you use on the basic necessities. The lowest are the lowest ring of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? That food, shelter, the water, and I mean, to be fair, a family. The basic necessities is what the wealth, the money of the second house represents, because again, it's your responsibilities. It's kind of the boring wealth. The fun wealth is a different house, but the fun, or the responsible and consistent and stabilizing money that you just make sure that you have enough to be a human being. And that can vary for everybody, right? Some people feel like they need a mansion. Some people feel like they're okay in a trailer. It just depends on what you value. It depends on your own individual perspective. That is determined by planets in the second house, the sign in the second house, and the Lord, however the Lord's doing. All those three different things color and shape your values, your speech, your money, your responsibilities, how much responsibility, how responsible you are, how resourceful you are, how much resources you have, things of that nature. It's also so closely associated, or aligned with the D2, the second Varga chart, the Hora in Vedic astrology. The Hora is all about our resourcefulness, our resources, being able to be receptive to the things in our life. And also the second house represents the face. So the body part that it represents is the face, just like Taurus does. It's naturally aligned with the signs. And so not only can the second house tell you about your immediate family and your resources and your values, what you value, your speech, but it also can tell you about your face and how your face may manifest, whether it, beautiful, might have some certain afflictions or have problems, skin problems, things like that. Also rules the neck. And also, I forgot to mention, it also represents food. So if you have a healthy second house, you have a healthy diet, you usually like more natural foods. If it is afflicted, you might have problems with eating or certain disorders, or, junk food, or just, having a distorted palate. This is based off the quality, again, of the planets in the second house, the second lord, and the quality of the sign as well. Okay? Aspects to it as well. So there's a lot of different moving parts that kind of paint this clear picture once you start to really get into the flow of understanding what all these different parts of the chart, different astrological planets and significations, kind of how they combine to paint this unified picture of your life or the people you are reading, their lives as well. Planets. So the most important planet in the D2 Hora is the moon. And since the Hora is the Varga chart, which is just a divisional chart, a magnifying glass detailed view of the second house. It's like the second house chart. So they make an entire chart of just the second house. It's the moon. And why is it the moon? Why is the moon the natural karaka significator, producer for the second house? Because the moon is all about getting our basic needs met. The moon is all about being receptive and being resourceful to the things that we need in life. Really that simple. So the moon does very well in the second house. All things equal, and obviously if it's in decent dignity and is not afflicted with certain conjunctions. The moon in the second house as well, because it can make somebody responsible. It can make somebody conscientious and also nurturing and being able to take care of others as well. Moon in the second house is a great placement. And the moon is rarely in bad shape just because it doesn't have any enemies, outside of being in Scorpio where it's debilitated or conjunct Saturn. Moon is doing well in the second house. I have a person that's close to me that has moon in the second house. They're very responsible, very caring, very nurturing. They do things for others and they make sure that everybody has what their needs. Everyone has what they need as well as what they need, and they feel okay. And they do a good job. They do a great job. And I'm thankful to have them in my life. Now, the best planet, most auspicious, fortunate planet to have in the second house is, unsurprisingly, Jupiter. Jupiter can also be seen as a natural producer karaka of the second house because it represents our money, it represents our wealth. But Jupiter there, wherever Jupiter goes, it's going to give abundance. It's going to give abundance, but also it's going to give fortune, luck, and wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And you want that, right? Why would you not want to have Jupiter, the most fortunate planet that expands your ability to take care of others, take care of yourself? Now, it can give you more responsibility, but because Jupiter is a wise sign, you have that wisdom, you have that understanding, and you have that fortune to be able to take care of a lot of people. I believe Bill Gates has Jupiter in the second house, right? So he has a lot of wealth, but he also has a lot of responsibility. He's taking care of a lot of people. He has a lot of employees he has to pay. He has a lot of, I'm sure people asking him for money. He's charity. Has a huge, wide net of responsibility. That's what can happen with Jupiter in the second house. Obviously depends on the dignity. If Jupiter is afflicted, you might have somebody who has a lot of responsibility but isn't responsible or able to manage it. It's stressful, all that extra responsibility. So it can depend, but all things considered equal in a vacuum, which it never is, but you get the point. Jupiter does well. It also has good digbala. It's very strong. You can direct your Jupiter well to live a fulfilling, abundant life where the people in your life are better off and you are better off. Now, the most difficult planet, or I should say most challenging planet, where you're going to have the most obstacles, you're going to have the most lessons to learn, because that's what difficult and challenging means, is just more lessons to learn, is Saturn. Saturn teaches us those hard lessons. It requires discipline. It creates delays. It can create trauma, fear, insecurity. It is the shadow planet. So having it in the second house of your wealth has low digbala. It's very close to home. It could lead to early childhood trauma that is pretty severe because that's what Saturn can represent. It can mean that there's certain insecurities around vocalizing or speaking. It can, maybe even signify eating disorders, especially if Rahu's there, or even just the north node Rahu. If that's there even by itself, can lead to problems with food or being able to properly nourish the self. But at its core, it restricts things. So you're going to have problems most likely. Again, if Saturn's in bad dignity, inherently, it's going to create delays. It's going to create some restrictions on your wealth and your ability to take care of yourself. So you might be someone that's more dependent, less resourceful, less able to get the things you need without outside help. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's not something that needs, you need to feel ashamed about. It's just part of your karmic lesson, your dharma, to pay off that karmic debt wherever Saturn is. It's asking you to pay a karmic debt. You're working that off in the second house. So that's where there's going to be delays. That's where there's going to be problems, is in your finances or in your resources or in, the things that you value, acquiring the things that you value. And also, like I said before, the North Node, Rahu, can lead to difficulties because you're developing that house, you're taking your time to learn it because you don't have a lot of past life karma or understanding of that house. So second house, it can be difficult because you might have to be relying on people for longer because you're developing your ability to be resourceful, take care of yourself, be responsible. Now, if the Lord is good, the second Lord is good, or there's good planets in the second house with Rahu or with Saturn, that can mitigate things, that can make things a little bit more balanced out. But if Saturn's in bad shape or the Lord of the second Lord is also in bad shape, then it can be a difficult time. Okay, like I have a friend who has Saturn in the second house, and then the Lord Jupiter is with Rahu, and she has problems, taking care of herself and being responsible, and so that's just something that can manifest. Now we go to second Lord. So let's say we always start off with Aries when we do the signs, and let's say we have Mars. Let me put Mars in second Lord because it rules Aries. Say you put it in the seventh house. So wherever the Lord goes, that means that Lord is serving the house that it's in. That's why having the Lord in its own house is good, because that means it's serving itself. But when you have the second Lord, say, in the seventh house, that means that your wealth is serving your relationships. So that could be a situation where you are taking care of your spouse, or you are, working with your spouse, or working in trade leads to more wealth. But at the core of it is that your wealth, you are using it to support your relationship, support your partner, support your love life in general, your dating life, and your ability to co-create with other people, and also long distance journeys, because these are things the seventh house represents. So just that, simple idea. Or, in the first house, you put the second Lord in the first house, you have money, your resources, your values are supporting yourself, right? It is supporting who you are as a person. And if the second Lord is in good shape and the first house is healthy as well, with the first Lord being healthy, you do have enough wealth, you do have enough resources to be able to support yourself and to be able to even give to other people. And it represents a healthy persona, healthy body, healthy self-esteem. That's what the first house represents, okay? So that's the second Lord. It is the director. It directs your resources, your values, and your responsibilities, what you're responsible for as well. So again, seventh house, you're going to be responsible most likely for your partner. You're going to be responsible for yourself, first house. You're going to be relying on yourself a lot more if you have second house, second Lord in the first house. But if that's good or bad, if you're able to do it or not, will be dependent on the quality, the dignity of planets in the first, second, second, seventh, et cetera, et cetera. Now we go to the signs. So we already kind of did Aries. We already placed Aries there, so we can just go off right there. So Aries is a dynamic sign. It is a powerful sign. It is a sign that likes to be on its own, paving its own path. So, when it comes to your values or your ability to get resources, you can be very dynamic, which means that you could maybe have lots of resources in one moment, but then spend it all in a very quick succession, because it's a dynamic, it's a movable sign, Aries. It moves back and forth. You're most likely going to want to acquire wealth, or have, your inspirations, or have a pioneering spirit when it comes to acquiring your wealth. This is going to be if you're a Pisces, Lagna, Pisces in the ascendant. So you're going to be dynamic in your ability to acquire wealth. And also second house, like I said before, represents our values, what we value in life, what we deem as worthwhile. So with Aries, what will you value? You'll value strength, action, taking action towards what you want. Taking responsibility, but being pioneering about it, initiating, not sitting around, not being lazy, but taking action, having that Aries warrior spirit, warrior energy. Okay. Now we have Taurus, which is the natural, second sign of the second house. When you have Taurus in the second house, you have that cohesive alignment. You have an Aries ascendant. You have somebody who is more pragmatic, very practical when they deal with their resources, when they're managing the resources. There's more of a grounded, stable, steady, slower moving second house. It's not as volatile as with Aries, which is a lot more based off someone's ideas or passions or desires when they're pursuing their resources, or when they're acquiring the resources they need to survive. Taurus, like I said, more stable, more practical. And what you value security, you value material security, you value that stability. Also with the face, you can have sharper features with Aries because it's like sharper. Mars is a sharper planet. Second house Taurus, you can have more of a natural, beautiful face. You can have somebody who is more drawn to natural foods and natural living. But again, it depends. If Taurus is afflicted, or Venus, the Lord of Taurus, is afflicted, that can switch things up. But just as a baseline, the theme: more stable, more consistent, more secure when you have Taurus there. That is the theme that is going on. Gemini is a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more varied. There's going to be maybe developing skill development in the second house, developing your resources. And what you value learning, you value skill development, you value trying different things, because Gemini is the master, or the jack of all trades, master of none. So you're going to have that energy, that thematic framework in the second house where your resources are, your food is. You might be somebody who likes to try a bunch of different foods. You wouldn't want, a consistent diet. Like Taurus might have more of a consistent, natural, healthy diet, be more drawn to that, or just at least consistent, stable, very tasty. Or Gemini likes interesting foods, might want to try things because it's interesting when it comes to food, or might have a family that is all about communication. So communication can be an important aspect of the second house, acquiring wealth, or getting the resources you need, right? That can be involved with Gemini. We have Cancer. We have a lot more of a caring, nurturing energy, somebody who is more naturally responsible and cares for others. So you have Cancer here. You have somebody who is more likely to take care of other people. You have Aries there. You have someone less likely to take care of other people. Not saying that that's inherently not the case, but just as a baseline, you're going to have somebody who's going to be more nurturing, more willing, and more desirous to start a family and be responsible for others, or be part of something that is about connection, because that's the water signs. They crave connection. Gemini, air sign, they crave interchange and interesting things and development and communication. But Cancer is that connection, it's that emotional bond. It is that nurturing, that caring, supportive environment. And what you value, everything I just said, right? Emotional connection. You really value family, emotional connection, and mutual caring. I take care of you, you take care of me. Leo is going to be that fire energy again, right? Aries is that fire energy. We go back to Aries. Back to fire with Leo. But Leo is more steady, more steadfast. It's a fixed sign, unlike Aries. So it's going to be less all over the place. It's going to be somebody who wants to be responsible for themselves, take care of themselves. They're going to be more of that self-propelling energy, independent energy. But they're more willing to manage things for other people. They are okay with having their own territory. When it comes to their resources or acquiring their resources, it might be a creative pursuit. It might be involving leadership, or, taking care of others, being the king, being that leader, being the Leo, the lion that rules the pride. So you might have somebody who wants to be more of the head of the family, head of their immediate unit. They don't want to be bossed around. They want to be in charge, or they want to be at least at the center of attention. They want to be seen within their immediate family. They want to take charge of their resources, and they would have speech to be someone who could project, who could speak with chest, who can usually speak with confidence. They're going to be more confident and be in their resourcefulness, as long as second house is healthy and unafflicted, because you also can get the opposite, right? Everything I'm saying, I'm usually leaning towards the more lighter side, but there's always that shadow side that can manifest if there is an affliction in Leo, or to Leo's Lord, which would be the sun in this case. And then also values. What do you value? Well, what does Leo value? Leo values strength, consistency, but also honesty, nobility, honoring your word. They value themselves when they honor their word, and they value other people when they say they're going to do something, they do it. And they want to stand by that value as well when Leo is healthy. We go to Virgo, which is more meticulous, precise, refined, analytical. So acquiring resources, they're going to be detail-oriented, probably going to be very pragmatic, want to plan, organize things out, determine, okay, we have this set of goals or things we need to achieve to acquire this and that, whatever it may be. But, it's all about refinement too. So improving things is maybe how they get resources or money, because the second house can also steer us towards maybe what job we have. People talk about the 10th house, even the first house can very much signify what career path we choose because that's who we are, or the 10th house, the public things we're doing. But the second house as well, because that's how we make money. It's how we get our basic needs met. So your career could sometimes be your career, right? The thing you do in the public sphere can be different than how you make a living or make your money. So somebody who improves things or manages things, or a planner, or somebody who's analytical might be something, working in something more technical like data, or something involving purifying, service, healing, right? These are Virgoan things. And what does Virgo value? Common theme we're doing through the second house when we go through each sign. What does it value? It values, or people with Virgo in the second house would value refinement, purity, organization, cleanliness, but above all, service and improvement, that development, right? Everything doesn't have to be perfect. Virgo is a perfectionist sign, but it's more about the process of perfecting, of refining, of making things better. That really fills Virgo with a lot of purpose, a lot of joy when it's healthy. Then we go to Libra. Somebody with Libra in the second house, you're going to be a little more balanced. Libra, believe it or not, is a pragmatic sign itself because Venus itself is pragmatic. So, it's the merchant, it's the trader. It's not traitor, but trader, trading. So trading with others, balance, having harmony between different people. So immediate family, they would prefer a harmonious environment, a harmonious immediate family environment. At home, that's what they want as well, with their immediate family, taking care of things in a more diplomatic way. They are resourceful in the fact that they trade for the things that they need. They're able to trade their time, or buy valuable things that are actually worthwhile for them. If Venus is good, obviously, if Venus is healthy, the Lord, and the planets, if there are any in the second house, is healthy, then somebody is going to be able to get the things they need and know what they're giving up for. They know how to trade. They know how to not overpay for stuff. They don't underpay for stuff. They're pragmatic, and things that actually provide value to their life in the second house. And what they value the most is win-win relationships, harmony, and balance with the people around them, especially. They really value relationships. They really value when everybody is heard and both sides are appreciated and there's a compromise, but everybody wins. If it's healthy, which I always have to, because sometimes people are like, well, I have Libra in the second house, and that's not, but it's like, well, what's Venus looking like? What's Libra looking like? All right, what are the aspects to the second house looking like? That these are all things that are going to mediate. They're going to change the picture a little bit. And also, there's always that level of free will. And there's a 20 to 25% area of free will where we can change our chart. We can move a different path. And this is just the inherent karma that we've accumulated up until this point. But you can always change your destiny. You can always change your fate to a certain degree. Scorpio, which is what I have. So somebody with the resources can be intense. They can be mysterious. They can acquire their resources through the occult. The occult involves my entire channel, how I make money. So like astrology or alchemy or shadow work or things that are more esoteric and mysterious and, transformative, right? Their speech can be more intense. They can be, more piercing, or they can be investigative in the way that they communicate, at least speech-wise. Also, with Scorpio in the second house, what do they value? What do they value most? They value transformation. They value death and rebirth, but also core of it is that emotional bond, that emotional intensity. They want to have that bond with people. They don't want to, in general, float on the surface. They want to get to the core. They want to get to the roots of what is really going on and not hang out on the surface. Like Libra is more chill. Libra is like, oh, we exchange as long as everybody's happy, everyone's balanced, cool. Second house. I value this. I just value peace and also aesthetic beauty. Things that are aesthetically pleasing is also Libra. Scorpio is like, no, I want to get to the root. I want to see what's underneath. I want to get to the truth. And if it's painful, if it's harmful, if people cry, I don't care, as long as we know that it's real and we grow from it and transform into a better version of ourselves, shedding our skin. Because Scorpio also represents not just scorpions, but snakes, shedding that skin to become the newer version, 2.0 version of ourselves. It's what Scorpio cares about and what they value. If it's in the second house and if it's healthy. Sagittarius, what do they value? Or skipping ahead. But if you have second house Sagittarius, you have somebody who is naturally wise, optimistic about the resources and being able to acquire wealth. There is an intelligence, there is a natural fortune that can be occurring when you have Sagittarius in the second house. They're able to acquire wealth through exploration, through, learning and development, because, Sagittarius is a very much learning sign, but at its core, what does Sagittarius in the second house value the most? It's setting goals and achieving them, achieving their goals, setting a long-term goal. This is usually in the realm of finances, resources, responsibilities, setting that goal, aiming the arrow and shooting and hitting that target. So I have this desire to reach this financial goal, to be able to take care of my family in this amount of way, to have this certain amount of house. But like the overarching thing is I value having a goal, also wisdom and learning as well, because Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is the guru. Jupiter is about learning, understanding things, not just playing around with things, more like Mercury, which is more on the surface because it's interesting in development. But Sagittarius, but Jupiter in general, is that deep, true understanding that leads to wise decisions. So you can have somebody who makes wise financial decisions, relatively speaking, if Sagittarius is healthy. And also Jupiter as well, the lords of these signs. Capricorn, disciplined, more disciplined, can be more conscientious when it comes to their finances. They're not going to be, Sagittarius would be more naturally generous, more open with their money, might be a little bit more charitable. Not necessarily meaning they're going to give to charity more, but just meaning that the people they feel responsible for, they're more willing to take care of, they're more willing to be open when it comes to resources, finances. Capricorn, they're going to be a little bit more frugal, naturally, inherently. They're going to be more frugal. Not saying that they're not going to take care of the people around them, but they're not just going to throw their money around nearly as willy-nilly as somebody maybe Sagittarius. Again, not irresponsibly. Somebody who'd be more responsible would probably be Aries, or you could have somebody like Gemini who might spend money on just interesting things, or use their resources to acquire skills that might not necessarily lead to something fulfilling or practical or pragmatic. All the earth signs are going to be responsible. Taurus is going to be responsible. They're going to take their time. Virgo, they're going to be very conscientious. They're going to make sure, they're going to analyze the situation, make sure it leads to the proper outcome that they desire. They're going to plan. Capricorn, they're going to take the more traditional route. They're going to work. They're going to toil. They're going to struggle. They're going to move forward step by step by step. Resilience, able to persevere and be patient and build their resources and be responsible. Unless it's afflicted, because I have somebody in my life who has Rahu North Node in the second house in Capricorn, and it took them a long time. It took them until their late 40s to finally have that responsibility, that tradition. So you have to remember that the Lord of the sign and the planets in the house will drastically affect it. This is just the natural baseline theme, and it's colored and mediated and modulated by the different permutations, planetary, energetic permutations in your chart. And what they value hard work. Value hard work, getting after it, ambition, and success. That's what they value, Capricorn. Aquarius can be somebody who, when it comes to resources, can be innovative, can think outside the box, spend a lot of intellectual time thinking about the resources or just pondering different ways to acquire resources or to fulfill their responsibilities. Aquarius in the second house can also be somebody who has, a unique way of speaking or has a unique palette, because that's what Aquarius is. Aquarius is that unique sign, innovative, future thinking sign. So be somebody who's constantly thinking about the future and future ways to take care of their responsibilities more efficiently or better. It's also a psychological sign. So somebody who might be learning to develop their psychological strength and not need as much resources or not need to take on as much responsibility to feel worthy. And what Aquarius values societal progress, societal harmony, or not harmony, but health. Not even health. I would say societal progress for sure, and also overall well-being in the sense that the value, the intrinsic worth of humanity is being respected on a bit grander scale. And they would be somebody too who also values intellectual conversation and psychological awareness, being people who are aware of their psychology or learning about psychology. That's something they could be valuing in their life, is that psychological dimension. Because you have an air sign that like might talking about or speaking to, that might talk about psychology, or that might talk about unique concepts that are very intellectual, very cerebral. That's going to be Aquarius. Finally, we have Pisces, which is going to be probably the most generous sign, right? It's Jupiter and Sagittarius. They'll be generous, but there's usually going to be always a purpose about it, right? They might be charitable, but I'm giving to charity because I know if I give 10% of my wealth, then I'm going to get 20% back from the universe just based off karma. Pisces is a little bit more open and can be maybe a little bit more irresponsible with their wealth, and that they might give it away, be more open, be more giving, but also following their intuition when it comes to the responsibilities they need to take on. Not taking on too much responsibility can be a problem because of that lack of boundaries. Virgo can be a little bit, way too uptight at times. That's the shadow side, being too uptight or neurotic about the resources. Libra can be a little bit too much about like balance and tit for tat, and kind of can lose the purpose and just be overly focused on, the trading aspect and the harmonious aspect, and not getting to what really matters, or, the deeper purpose. Pisces can lose their way a little bit, can be a little bit disillusioned or escapist through food, can escape through buying stuff or through, escaping responsibilities, right? But the healthy aspect, the healthy manifestation of it is that you have somebody who is generous, who is open, and can be imaginative, can imagine new ways to get resources. And what they value transcendence. They value letting go and surrendering the ego. They value, connection, but not necessarily connection with other people as much as, say, Cancer or even Scorpio, which is more of like, Cancer is more of like that connection with like a group of people that are like family. Scorpio is that deep connection with like one or two people where you just really get down to the core. Pisces is like that connection with the divine, with something greater than ourselves, to transcend this physical space, and to, there might be a part where they're like, what's even the point of responsibility? Who even cares about the material? It's just all foo-foo, vapid, thin layer bullshit to begin with, right? So that's something you can get in Pisces. Obviously, the manifestation is going to be mediated and changed by, yeah, you guessed it, the Lord, the planets in the sign, and the aspects to second house. Anyway, if you have questions, that was kind of a lot, especially for a beginner's guide, but it is what it is. But yeah, if you have any questions, happy to answer down below. In the next video, we're going to be talking about the third house. So just going through the motions, going through the houses.